Want to speak real Spanish from your first lesson? Sign up for your free lifetime account at SpanishPod101.com.
Hola, bienvenidos a tu clase de español. Soy Brenda Romagnello, tu profesora. Hello, welcome to your Spanish class. My name is Brenda Romagnello. Today we're going to have a look at the possessive adjectives in Spanish and then the different meanings of su and sus. We use the possessive adjectives in Spanish, and for that we say los adjetivos posesivos to establish belonging in Spanish. Yes, to establish ownership or belonging, or in certain cases, for example, when you talk about your family or your friends, we use it to establish relationships. Yes, for example, my mother, your father, etc. Let's have a look at the possessive adjectives in Spanish. So, to say my in Spanish, we are going to say the singular is mi, me. And the plural form is mis, mis, mi, mis. To say your informal, so remember we're gonna have two different yous in Spanish. You informal, which is an informal register with tú, and then a formal register with usted, yes, that we use for formal situations. So your, the possessive adjective for tú would be your, and we say in Spanish, singular tú and plural tus. Don't worry, we're going to talk about this difference, why do we have a singular and plural, in a minute. So going back to the possessive adjectives, we're gonna say tú for singular and tus for plural. Then we're gonna have your for the formal register, which is the same as to say his and her. His and her, your formal will be singular su and plural sus. Su, sus. Our in Spanish is going to be the singular. We're gonna have the masculino nuestro and the femenino nuestra. Nuestro, nuestra. And the plural form is going to be nuestros, nuestras. Nuestros, nuestras. Then for you all in Spain, which is vosotros, remember that we have you all in Spain, we say vosotros, and if we want to use the possessive adjective for vosotros, your, we would say the femenino singular vuestra and the masculino singular vuestro. Vuestro, vuestra. And the plural form is going to be vuestros, vuestras. Vuestros, vuestras. And then remember that we're gonna have you all in Latin America is ustedes. If we want to say and talk about the possessive adjective for ustedes in Latin America, we're gonna say your. And also we are going to use the same possessive adjective for their, either femenino and masculino. And we're gonna say the singular is su and the plural sus. Su and sus. As you can see here, we have different people sharing the same possessive adjective, specifically, particularly with su and sus, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. But something extremely important to point out about possessive adjectives in Spanish is that what we are matching, why do we have so many different forms? So for vosotros, nosotros, you can see that we have 4 different possessive adjectives for these specific subjects. And the reason is because we're not possessing, we're not matching the subject, the person, rather we are matching what we are possessing. Yeah, so we are matching in number and also in gender what we are possessing or the relationship that we want to establish, and not the person speaking. Let's have a look at some examples so you can see exactly what I mean. So remember, we match the possessive adjective in gender and number with what we possess instead of the person speaking. So we're going to say nuestra familia es grande. Nuestra familia es grande. As you can see here, familia is femenino singular, and we want to say our family. So it doesn't matter if we are saying nosotros, which is the masculino, we have to say nuestra familia, because familia what we are owning or the relationship that we want to talk about, familia is singular and femenino. Can you see that here? That's why we have to say nuestra familia. It's incorrecto to say nuestro familia. Okay, why? Because familia is what we are possessing in this case, so we have to say nuestra familia es grande. Let's have a look at another example. Nuestras hijas son inteligentes. Nuestras hijas son inteligentes. Our daughters are intelligent or smart. As you can see in this case, what we are possessing or what we're talking about is hijas, which is in the plural femenino form. That's why we have to say nuestras. The next example we have nuestro hijo tiene 5 años. Nuestro hijo tiene 5 años. Our son is 5 years old. As you can see now we're talking about hijo and we are still saying our, but we have to say nuestro because hijo is masculino and singular. And in the last example we have nuestros hijos son inteligentes. Remember that in Spanish, whenever we have the masculino plural, is usually for both, not only for masculino, yes, if you have all sons, and in plural, but it also is the general way that we talk about a noun in Spanish. So hijos in this case could also mean children or kids. So it could be mixed genders in this case. If you have 2 daughters and 2 sons, they are your hijos, no? Your children. In Spanish we use the masculino plural also for general. But we are going to say nuestros hijos son inteligentes. Nuestros hijos, because we are here matching hijos, which is in the plural and is also masculino. As you can see here, as a consequence, we're gonna have 4 different ways to say our in Spanish. Can you tell me what they are? To say, how do we say our in Spanish? We have 4 different, there we go, 4 different forms. Yes, we're gonna have nuestro, nuestra, nuestros, nuestras. And remember, that will depend, how we use them will depend on what we're talking about, what we are possessing. Now let's talk about tú. I don't know if you have noticed, but we have tú with the tilde, yes, with the written accent, and tú without the tilde, without that written accent. And what is the difference between these two? As you can see, tú with the little written accent means you. Yeah, so that is the subject, that is a person, that is a personal pronoun, the second personal pronoun that we have in Spanish, which means you. And tú is informal register, so we use it in informal situations. And then tú, without that written accent, is a possessive adjective, and we are going to use it when, as we were doing in the previous examples, when we want to establish a possession or a relationship, for example, within our family. If I say tu casa, then that means your house, and we don't need to write a tilde, a written accent in that tú. And if I say tú eres Marta, see, you are Marta, here we are using the person. Tú means you in this case. You are Marta. Something else that we need to talk about is vosotros. Vosotros means you all in Spain. And in Latin America, we don't use vosotros, we use ustedes. So, just like vosotros, all the possessive adjectives for vosotros, which would actually mean in English your, okay? All these possessive adjectives in Spanish will only be used in Spain specifically. And we also have 4, just like with nosotros. Can you remember those? We're gonna say vuestro, vuestra, vuestros, and vuestras. So vuestro, vuestra, vuestros, and vuestras would only be used in Spain. Por ejemplo, vuestro tío es Gerardo. Vuestro tío es Gerardo. So your uncle is Gerardo. Vuestra profesora es Romina. Vuestra profesora es Romina. Your teacher is Romina. Vuestros carros son grandes. Vuestros carros son grandes. Your cars are big. Vuestras amigas son guapas. Vuestras amigas son guapas. Your friends are good looking. The meaning of su and sus depend on the context and could mean his, her, your for formal register, your for the plural, and also their. Let's have a look at some examples. Tengo novio. Su nombre es Javier. As you can see here, context will help us a lot to have a look at what these su or sus mean. If you say tengo novio, that means I have a boyfriend. So we know that when I say su nombre, I'm referring to the boyfriend. So in this case, we know that su means his name is Javier. Let's have a look at another example. Nuestra abuela es Gladys. Nuestra abuela es Gladys. Su esposo es José. What do you think su means here? Nuestra abuela es Gladys. Our grandmother is Gladys. And then we're talking about her husband. Yes, so we're gonna say her husband is José. Mucho gusto, señor. ¿Cuál es su nombre? ¿Cuál es su nombre? What do you think su means here? Mucho gusto, nice to meet you, sir. What is your name? And this is a formal situation, it means your. Ustedes son de Francia. Ustedes son de Francia. Sus nombres son franceses. Sus nombres son franceses. As you can see here, context, we have ustedes. So we know that sus nombres son franceses, see? So your names are French. Are you from France? Yes. We know that your names would be sus in this case. And the last one, tengo tres hijos. Sus nombres son María, Pedro y Luis. Again, when we say tengo tres hijos, and then we are naming these children, yes, I have 3 kids, and now I'm talking about their names, we're talking about their. So sus in this case means their. Their names are María, Pedro, and Luis. Muy bien, es hora de practicar. Vamos a hacer algunos ejercicios. Now it's time to practice. Let's do some exercises. Completa los espacios en blanco con el adjetivo posesivo correspondiente. So now you have to fill in the blanks with the corresponding possessive adjective. Respuesta. Ella es mi mamá. Ellos son mis padres. Nuestra familia es muy grande. Tu abuela es muy dulce. Pedro y Luis son nuestros tíos. Sus primos son muy amables. Su abuelo es Manuel y sus tías son Julia y Ana. Su hermana es Clara. Mi prima Sofía es muy bonita. Su hermano mayor es Germán. Vuestra hermana es Rosa. Vuestros tíos tienen una casa grande en Madrid. Okay, so that is all for today. I really hope that now you understand how to use the possessive adjectives in Spanish. Thank you very much for watching this class. Muchísimas gracias y nos vemos en la próxima. I will see you next class. Adiós, hasta luego. Hola, soy Brenda Romagnello, tu profesora de español. Hi, my name is Brenda Romagnello and I'm your Spanish teacher. Today we're going to have a look at some basic conversation questions and answers to talk about you and your family. One of the common questions that always come up whenever you're having a conversation with Spanish speakers is about you and your family. Who do you live with? Do you have any siblings? Do you have pets? all these sort of questions are basic conversational questions that always come up whenever we are talking to people in general, and that is not the exception when you're talking to Spanish speakers as well. Today I'm going to help you to know what questions these questions are, so that you can also ask your Spanish friends when you're in conversations with them, and then we'll have a look at potential answers so that you can also improve your Spanish and your communication and conversational skills. As you're going to talk about you and your family, let's have a look at some vocabulary for family members in Spanish. Repeat after me. Repite después de mí. Madre, madre. Mamá, mamá. Padre, padre. Papá, papá. So the difference between madre and mamá, padre and papa is of course that madre and padre are a little bit more formal and mamá y papá are a little bit more informal. Hijo, hijo, hija, hija. Remember, in Spanish the H is silent, so as you can see in hijo and hija, we don't pronounce the H here. It's not hijo or hija, yes, it's just hijo, hija. Hermano, hermano, hermana, hermana. Tío, tío, tía, tía. Sobrino, sobrino, sobrina, sobrina. Primo, primo, prima, prima. Abuelo, abuelo, abuela, abuela. Bisabuelo, bisabuelo, bisabuela, bisabuela. Nieto, nieto, nieta, nieta. Now we're going to learn some adjectives that we can use to describe, for example, brothers and sisters and also children. Yes, your children, whether they are an only child, or for example to say that they're the oldest, the eldest, the youngest, the one in the middle, etc. Único, único, única, única. Mayor, mayor. La del medio, la del medio. Menor, menor. Gemelo, gemelo, gemela, gemela. Mellizo, mellizo, melliza, melliza. For twins in Spanish, we're gonna have gemelos and mellizos. So gemelos are identical twins, and mellizos are going to be fraternal twins. Let's see how we can use this vocabulary in sentences to describe your family members, especially when we're talking about sons and daughters. If you want to say you are an only child, or if you are the oldest or the youngest, if you have older siblings or younger siblings. Por ejemplo, soy hijo único, soy hija única. ¿Sí? I'm an only child. Soy la hija mayor. Soy el hijo del medio. Soy la hija menor. Tengo un hermano mayor. Tengo una hermana mayor. Tengo dos hermanos menores. Tengo dos hermanas mayores. Soy la hija del medio. Tengo un hermano mayor y una hermana menor. Sí, aquí hija es opcional. Here, hija is optional. You can say soy la del medio. Soy el del medio. Sí, I'm in the middle. Tengo un hermano mayor y tengo una hermana menor. See, be careful here also when you say hermano. When you want to say a brother, we have to say un hermano. Es incorrecto. It's incorrect to say uno hermano. So those are basically your immediate family members. Now let's have a look at your in-laws, or when you get married or when people get married, what are the relationships, these new family additions, and how to say those in Spanish. Suegro, suegro, suegra, suegra. So suegro is father-in-law, suegra, mother-in-law. Nuera, nuera is just the femenino form, and that means daughter-in-law. Yerno, yerno, yerno is son-in-law. Esposo, esposo, esposa, esposa. Ex-esposo, ex-esposo, ex-esposa, ex-esposa. Marido significa husband, so it's a synonym of esposo, and mujer is wife, and it also, remember, a synonym is esposa. Prometido, prometido, prometida, prometida. Sí, prometido is fiancé and prometida fiancé. Novio, novio, novia, novia. Amante, madrastra, madrastra. Padrastro, padrastro. Okay, that's a long list of vocabulary, but that's basically all the family members that you can possibly have, most family members that you can have in Spanish. ¿Cómo es tu familia? What is your family like? In Spanish, whenever we want to say something general, for example, children or kids, or if you want to talk about your grandchildren, or if you want to talk about your parents, etc., we're going to use the masculino plural for a general in Spanish. If I ask, ¿tienes hijos? Do you have sons? Yeah, will be the literal translation, because we know that hijo is son in the singular and masculino, so then hijos will probably mean sons, yeah, so the plural for the hijo. But in Spanish, if it's in a question, it means, do you have children? Okay, do you have children? It could be both sons and daughters. Let's have a look at another example. ¿Tienes hermanos? ¿Tienes hermanos? Here we are using the plural masculine hermanos for general information. We aren't asking if you have brothers, but rather if you have siblings. So a possible answer to this would be sí. Tengo dos hermanos y dos hermanas. Tengo dos hermanos y dos hermanas. Yes, I do. I have two brothers and two sisters. So in this case, even if we're asking for hermanos, yes, the general would be we're asking for siblings. So if you have brothers and sisters, you need to specify both. Let's say that if you want to talk about your siblings and you only have one, then you are going to use the non-specific article a, yes, or an in English. We're gonna say un or una, un and una, which also means one in Spanish, okay? So you can say, tengo un hermano, see, I have a brother, or I have one brother. Tengo una hermana, I have a sister. So remember, that is not correct to say uno before the masculine singular noun. So you cannot say tengo uno tío, tengo uno hermano, tengo uno primo. You have to say un here. Tengo un tío, tengo un hermano, tengo un primo. Now, if you have many siblings, you can use mayor for older and menor for younger. Remember to place the adjective after what we are describing, so be careful with the plural form. Let's have a look at an example here. Tengo un hermano mayor y una hermana menor. Sí, tengo un hermano mayor y una hermana menor. I have an older brother and a younger sister. Tengo dos hermanos mayores. Tengo dos hermanos mayores y dos hermanas menores. Y dos hermanas menores. Tengo dos hermanos mayores y 2 hermanas menores. I have 2 older brothers and 2 younger sisters. So as you can see here, we're saying dos hermanos in the plural. See, I have 2 brothers, older brothers. So we have to say mayores, and then I have 2 younger sisters, hermanas menores. Muy bien, perfecto. Now let's move to the part where we ask basic questions about you and your family in Spanish. Pregunta número 1. ¿Con quién vives? ¿Con quién vives? Who do you live with? ¿Con quién vives? Here are a few possible answers. Respuestas posibles. Vivo con mi esposo o vivo con mi esposa, vivo solo, vivo sola, vivo con mi familia, vivo con mis padres, etc. Pregunta número 2. ¿Tienes hermanos? ¿Tienes hermanos? Do you have siblings? You can answer this question in an affirmative way and you can say, sí, tengo un hermano y una hermana. Yes, I have a brother and I have a sister. Or if you want to give a negative answer, you can say, no, no tengo hermanos. No tengo hermanos. So pay attention here that we have 2 no's in this answer. We're gonna have no, the first one, because we're answering to the question. ¿Tienes hermanos? No. See, do you have siblings? No. No tengo. See, I don't have. So the second no is to negate the verb. No, no tengo. No, I don't. Pregunta número 3. ¿Tienes tíos? ¿Tienes tíos? So here, remember, we're using the masculino plural for general, and that means, do you have aunties or uncles? Respuesta afirmativa, sí, tengo un tío y una tía. Sí, tengo un tío y una tía. Respuesta negativa, no, no tengo tíos. No, I don't. I don't have any aunties or uncles. So pay attention here that in the negative answer, we are also having it and keeping it in the plural form because it's general. Pregunta número 4. ¿Tienes primos? Do you have cousins? Sí, tengo 8 primos y una prima. Yes, I have 8 cousins and 1 cousin. So remember that in Spanish we're gonna have female cousins and male cousins. So 8 primos is male cousins and una prima would be a female cousin. Respuesta negativa, no, no tengo primos. Pregunta número 5. ¿Tienes hijos? Sí, tengo un hijo y una hija. No, no tengo hijos. Pregunta número 6. ¿Tienes sobrinos? Sí, tengo 3 sobrinos y 2 sobrinas. So remember, sobrinos is going to be nephews and sobrinas nieces. Y la última pregunta es la pregunta número 7. This is the last question. ¿Tienes mascotas? Sí, tengo un perro y una gata. Yes, I have a dog and a cat, a female cat. But if you have a male cat, then you have to say, sí, tengo un perro y un gato. And la respuesta negativa, no, no tengo mascotas. And something important to remember for your conversations in Spanish, when we have a conversation, if we have things in common, instead of repeating it, see, for example, if someone has a pet, yes, they have a dog, sí, tengo un perro, instead of you saying, yo tengo un perro, you can say, yo también, me too, yo también. And then if they say, for example, no tengo mascotas, I don't have pets, then instead of repeating, if you don't have pets either, then you can say yo tampoco, me neither, or neither do I. Fabuloso. Good job. Thank you so much for watching today's class. And now I want you to comment below answer to these two questions that I would love to know about you from the questions that we had a look into today. Number one, número uno, ¿tienes hermanos? Let me know if you have siblings. And number two, ¿tienes mascotas? Do you have pets? Let me know in the comments below using the answers that we have learned today. Muchísimas gracias por ver esta clase. Thank you so much for watching and I will see you next class. Adiós.
Hola, ¿cómo estás? Mi nombre es Romina. Soy tu profesora de español para la clase de hoy. Hi, ¿cómo estás? How are you? My name is Romina. I'm your Spanish teacher for today's lesson. En la clase de hoy voy a explicarte los pronombres demostrativos en español. For today's lesson, I'm going to teach you the demonstrative pronouns in Spanish. So first things first, what is it? What is a pronoun? Pronouns are words that replace nouns, and the idea is to avoid repetition. Demonstrative pronouns, as their name indicates, demonstrative comes from Latin and it means to show, to pinpoint. So basically, the demonstrative are a specific category of pronouns that what they do is they pinpoint exactly what we're talking about, okay? So basically we use them a lot when we are pointing out things, okay? Vamos a ver esto con un ejemplo. Es mucho más fácil de comprender con un ejemplo. So we're going to see this with an example because obviously it's a lot easier to understand with an example. Qué lindas flores. Estas me gustan mucho. Lovely flowers, oh, what a beautiful flowers. I like these ones very much. So in this example, estas is the demonstrative pronoun which is replacing flores. It is replacing the word flowers in the second sentence. What estas is doing is to pinpoint exactly which flowers are the ones that I like very much. Which flowers out of all the flowers I'm surrendered with are the ones that I like very much. Another thing is to use this demonstrative pronoun, estas, to avoid the repetition of the word flores in the second sentence. So another thing for you guys to notice in this sentence, is in this example, is the fact that I'm mentioning the word flores in the first sentence. So when I'm using the word estas, you already have a context. You already know what I'm talking about. Bien, continuamos. Let's continue. Did you notice the ending of estas? ¿Has notado la terminación de la palabra estas? Esa terminación AS, the ending in AS? ¿Qué es eso? What is that? So, estas está en femenino y plural. So, estas is in the feminine form and also in the plural form. So, the reason for this is because the demonstrative pronouns in Spanish have to match with the noun they're replacing in gender and in number, okay? Las flores, because the flowers are, it's a feminine and a plural word, okay? I'm going to have to use estas to replace it because that's also in feminine and plural. I believe that this is what makes the pronouns in Spanish just a little bit more difficult than English, if you compare it with English. And this is because in Spanish we have 4 options to select from, right? Depending if it's masculine, feminine, singular, or plural, okay? So if it's masculine and singular, you're going to use este, the very first example, este, the very first word, sorry. If it's masculine and plural, you're going to go estos, and then if it's feminine and singular, you're going to say esta, and plural is estas. Let's practice the pronunciation. Este, estos, esta, estas. In Spanish, another complication that we have is the distance, okay? So depending on how far away we are from the object that we're referring to, that we're talking about, we are going to use either one of the three demonstrative pronouns we have in Spanish. So if the object is nearby you and you can touch it, for example, you are going to use este. So when it's cerca, when it's nearby you, when it's cerca, you're going to use este. But if the object that you're talking about is very far away from you, you're going to be using aquel. So, si el objeto está lejos, so lejos means far. If it's far away from you, you're going to use aquel. So if the object is somewhere in between, it's not too close and it's not too far away from you, then you're going to use ese. We have three options, while in English we have only two. So I believe that the closest translation you have for this is that este is translated as this, while ese and aquel are translated usually as that, but I think aquel is mostly translated as that one over there. Okay, so you're saying that it's very far away. So the crazy thing is that we have four options for each one of these three options, again, depending if it's a a feminine or a masculine, or if it's singular or if it's plural. Okay, don't forget the translations. These, that, those, that one over there, those ones over there. Vamos a practicar la pronunciación, okay? Let's start with the very first ones, okay? The ones at the very top of your screen. Repite, por favor. Please repeat after me. Este. Este. Esta. Esta. Estos. Estos. Estas. Estas. Vamos con el siguiente cuadro. Let's move on to the next chart, the next table. Ese. Ese. Esa. Esa. Esos. Esos. Esas. Esas. Ahora vamos al tercer cuadro. So now we go to the third table. Aquel. Aquel. Aquella. Aquella. Aquellos. Aquellos. Aquellas. Aquellas. Please remember that because I'm from Argentina, my pronunciation is a little bit different, and for the double L, I will say aquella, no? So in other countries of, just remember that in other countries of Latin America and in Spain as well, the pronunciation will be different, and instead of aquella, you will hear people saying aquella. Okay, let's practice that pronunciation for a second. Vamos con el femenino singular. Let's start with the feminine and singular. Aquella. Aquella. Aquellos. Aquellos. Aquellas. Aquellas. In this lesson, I'm just teaching you the demonstrative pronouns that are feminine or masculine, okay, that belong to these grammatical genders in Spanish. I want you to know that there is a third gender. There is another gender in Spanish, which is the neutral gender. Okay. However, these are just a little bit more complicated. Okay. Demonstrative pronouns of the neutral gender are just a little bit difficult at this stage to be understood or used. So this is something that we prefer to teach you later on in your Spanish journey. Okay. So just be patient. It will come eventually. Un poco de paciencia.
Bien, es momento de practicar. We need to practice. Please complete the sentences with the correct demonstrative pronoun. Underneath each incomplete sentence, you have the translation in English. Just take a moment, pause this video right now before I show you on screen the answers, las respuestas correctas, okay? Muy bien, vamos a ver las respuestas. Okay, very good. We are going to see the answers. Let's check out the answers. Número 1. Esta copa es mía. Esa es la tuya. Número 2. Aquel que está al final de la calle es mi auto. Número 3. Estas son mis hermanas. Se llaman Agustina y Julieta. Número 4. Esos son mejores que estos. Número 5 y final. So this is the last one. Este es mi papá. Esa es mi mamá. Y aquellos son mis abuelos.
Bien, amigos, es el final de la clase. Muchas gracias por ver esta lección. Okay, my friends, this is the end of the lesson. Thank you so much for watching this video. Y nos vemos en la próxima clase. Adiós. Thank you so much. I will see you in our next class. Bye. Hola, ¿cómo estás? Mi nombre es Romina. Soy tu profesora de español de hoy. Hi, everybody. How are you today? This is Romina, and I'm your Spanish teacher for today. So in today's lesson, I'm going to give you memory tips to make it easy for you to memorize the numbers in Spanish from 0 to 100. Besides helping you to memorize numbers up until 100, I'm also going to give you tips on how to memorize or how to say correctly the years in Spanish, okay? The most basic years. So from 0 to 15, unfortunately, we have no other option but to memorize the numbers by heart, okay? Vamos a practicar la pronunciación. Por favor, repite después de mí. So let's practice pronunciation. Please repeat after me. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. The only memory tip, it's a small memory tip that I can give you. It's the fact that the numbers from 11 to 15 end in C, in the sound C. So C-E, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Okay, continuamos. Okay, let's move on. From the numbers from 16 to 19, where what we are basically doing in Spanish, we're saying 10 and the number afterwards. So it will be in this example, 16 in Spanish is 10 and 6, okay? The thing is that, as you can see on screen, is 10 and 6 are 3 words, but we say them fast and we fuse these 3 words into one. Okay, and as you can see on screen, Z becomes C and Y becomes I. Vamos a practicar la pronunciación. Let's practice the pronunciation. Por favor, repite. Please repeat. 16, 17, 18, 19. So the same thing happens when we go to count numbers from 21 to 29, okay? We're literally saying in Spanish 20 and the number afterwards, 20 and 1, 20 and 2, 20 and 3, etc. One thing to keep in mind is the pronunciation of the number 20 in Spanish against the rest of the numbers of with 20, so 21, 22, 23. 20 in Spanish has its ending in E, 20, 20. But the rest of the numbers do it in I, okay? 20, see? So that's something to keep in mind, okay? Vamos a practicar la pronunciación. Let's practice pronunciation. Repite. 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. Again, in this example, with these numbers, you can see that the 3 words 20 and 1 are fused into one word, okay? We say that very quickly, and then the vowel E and the consonant Y kind of fuse together into I, okay? So here you can already see that it's very important to know by heart the numbers from 1 to 9 because you're actually using them all the time. I believe that from this point onwards, numbers in Spanish becomes, it gets easier to memorize the numbers in Spanish. Numbers get easier from this point onwards because we are using the exact same structure I was mentioning before about 20 and 1, 20 and 2, etc. But this time we are not fusing or changing the words in any way. We have 3 words and that's the structure, that's the way we write it, okay? So 31 in Spanish is 30 and 1, 31. 32, it's 32, 30 and 2, and etc. Okay? And the same thing happens with the rest of the numbers. So 40, it's 41, sorry, it's 40 and 1. 42, 40 and 2. 41, 42, etc. So es bastante fácil. So it's fairly simple, we can say. Bien, let's practice the tens or the decimals, ¿no? Repite, por favor. Please repeat. 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. To make memorizing easier, you're going to notice that these numbers end in NTA, okay? They all end on the same 3 letters, NTA. So that ta sound, no? 30, 40, 50. Another thing to keep in mind is the difference between 60 and 70. It's quite common to get these 2 mixed up. So just bear in mind, 60 is 60, and 70 is 70. A lot of students also get confused with the pronunciation of 90 in Spanish. They will say nueventa, like they're trying to put the pronunciation of number 9 into 90, nueventa, and unfortunately that's incorrect, okay? You have to say o, no venta. Okay, continuamos. So I want to give you a memory tip for the number 5, and it's the numbers related to number 5. So we're talking about 5, 50, 15, and 500. Okay, I know we haven't seen the hundreds in here, but I thought I should include it here so you have everything in one place. So 5 and 50 share the same stem or root, and then 15 and 500 also share the stem or the root. Okay, so we have cinco, 50. So 550, 50. But then 15, 500. Okay, vamos, repite por favor. 5, 50, 5, 50, 15, 500, 15, 500. So the idea of this diagram is just to help you memorizing these numbers, just so you don't get confused. We reached to number 100. Unfortunately, I have no tips to give you for 100. Okay, so you just have to memorize it by heart. But you know, it's fairly easy. It's only how many? 4 letters. Por favor, repite. 100. 100. Muy bien, perfect. Okay, so now we're gonna quickly go through how to pronounce the years in Spanish, but obviously I'm not going to teach you how to say every single year from 0 to the infinite, because it will end up being a very long video. But I'm going to teach you the 2 most important years, especially for beginners. Okay, so that is saying 1910, 1970, 1930, or 2010, 2020, etc. This is because obviously these are the years that you're going to be using more often in the beginning of your Spanish journey. Okay, so here on the little box at the top of your screen, we have 2 examples. We have 1970 and 2010. Okay, let's pronounce 1970 in Spanish. Vamos a pronunciar en español. 1970. Repite. 1970. So basically what we're saying here in Spanish is 1970. Okay, that's what we're saying. Let's continue with 2010. So we're saying in Spanish 2010. That's what we're saying. Okay, repite. 2010. 2010. Okay, perfecto. So the structure is fairly easy. For 1900, you just put whatever number follows after that, right? So you want to say 1010, 1910, 1920. So you just say 1900 plus 10, right? So 1910. 1920, 1930, etc. Okay, and the same thing with 2000. Okay, just say the number at the end. 2010. 2010, 2020, 2030, 2040. ¿Ok? Repite, por favor. 1910. 1920. 1930. 1940. 2010. 2020. 2030. 2040. Thank you so much for watching this lesson. Muchísimas gracias y nos vemos en la próxima clase. Thank you so much and I will see you on our next class. Adiós.
Want to speak real Spanish from your first lesson? Sign up for your free lifetime account at SpanishPod101.com.
Hola, this is Brenda, your Spanish teacher. Today we're going to have a look at the difference between ser and estar, but specifically to talk about locations compared to events. As you know, we have two different verbs to say to be in Spanish. We're going to have ser and estar. So because we only have one verb in English, we need to learn when we use one verb and when we use the other verb in Spanish. One of the things that are very distinctive between these two verbs in Spanish is that we're going to use el verbo ser to talk about events. Anything that is related to the event, including the location, will use el verbo ser and not estar. And for locations in general, just to say where things or yourself or other people are located, then we're going to use el verbo estar. Let's start with el verbo estar in this specific case, because we know for sure that whenever we have a location, we're going to use el verbo estar. So let's have a look at some examples. Estoy en la universidad. Marta, ¿dónde estás? Él está en el café. El banco está en la calle Colón. ¿Dónde está el baño? ¿Dónde está el restaurante? Colombia está en Sudamérica. Estamos en México de vacaciones. So you can see all these examples. We have either people or things in a location. Whenever we want to talk about a location, we're going to use el verbo estar and not ser. It would be incorrect to use el verbo ser for any of these examples. Let's talk about events. So what is an event? An event, it would be anything that is that organized. For example, an event could be a party, fiesta. It could be yes, like a party, but including a birthday party, end of the year party, any sort of party, housewarming party, anything party. It could be a concert or a play, a movie, etc. For anything that is an event, we'll use the verb ser and not estar, including the location. Let's have a look at this example. La fiesta es el viernes. La fiesta es a las 8 de la noche. La fiesta es en mi casa. So have a look at here. So we have, for the date and time, we know that we have to use the verbo ser. So the party is on Friday, it is at 8 p.m. But pay attention to this. La fiesta es en mi casa. In this case, we're talking about a location, but can you see that we're using the verb ser in this case? And that is because we're talking about the location of the event. I'm not asking where your house is, I'm asking, or we're giving information about the location of the party, the event itself. Now, if someone didn't know where I lived or didn't know my address, we'll say, perfect, I got it, that's the event location. ¿Dónde está tu casa? Where is your house? Because now we're not talking about the event, now we're talking about the house, the location of the house. We need to switch to the verbo estar. I know it could be a little confusing of thinking, oh my god, is this an event? Is this a location? It's very simple. An event, remember, is a concert or a party or any gathering that is important. So a little trick to use if you're not sure is to replace the verb with is taking place. If it makes sense, you know that you're using the verb ser correctly. So let's have a look at this. La fiesta es en mi casa. The party is taking place in my house. It makes sense? Sí, creo que sí. El concierto es en el estadio. The concert is in the stadium. The concert is taking place in the stadium. ¿Tiene sentido? Does it make sense? Yes, so you know that you're using the verb correctly. El banco es en la avenida Colón. So, the bank is taking place in Colón Avenue. I don't think that doesn't make sense, okay? Mi casa es en el norte. My house is taking place in the north. It doesn't make sense. So if it doesn't make sense, you know that you're using the verb ser incorrectly for it's not an event, it's a location, and you need to use the verbo estar instead. And if you want to replace the verbo estar in these cases, you can replace it with is located. Por ejemplo, el banco está en la avenida Colón. The bank is located in Columbus Avenue. Mi casa está en el norte. My house is north. My house is located north. Let's try this with the events. La fiesta está en mi casa. The party is located in my house. Maybe, sounds a bit weird. El concierto está en el estadio. The concert is located in the stadium. It doesn't quite make sense because it's taking place, it is a one-time occasion. Muy bien, I really hope that you found this lesson useful and then now you understand the difference between ser and estar in terms of location when we talk about general location of things or people and when we are talking specifically about events. Muchas gracias, thank you so much for watching and I will see you next class. Adiós, hasta luego. Hola, soy Brenda, tu profesora de español. Today we're going to talk about 10 different phrases that we use with the verbo tener. El verbo tener, as you may or may not know, it means to have in English, and it's a verb that we use to talk about possession mostly, and it's the same way that we use it in English to talk about possessions. For example, tengo 3 hermanos, I have 3 brothers. Now, there are some differences between Spanish and English that sometimes we use el verbo tener, the verb to have in Spanish, and we use a complete different verb for these expressions that I'm going to share with you today. In English, we use the verb to be. Número 1, tener with años. So we are going to use the verbo tener in Spanish to talk about age. So in English, we would say I am, and then however old you are. In Spanish, we're going to say that we possess years in Spanish, and we're going to use the verb to have and say you have this many years. I know it doesn't make a lot of sense in English, but that's the way that we use it in Spanish. Por ejemplo, tengo 34 años. ¿Cuántos años tienes? How old are you? Número 2. Tengo hambre. Tengo hambre means I am hungry. So we use el verbo tener here again, which means to have, to say that we are hungry. I have hunger would be the literal translation, which doesn't make any sense in English, but it does in Spanish. We have to remember to use the verb to have Tener, when we talk about hunger in Spanish. Tengo hambre. ¿Tienes hambre? Número 3. Tengo sed. So we talked about hambre before, and it's the same thing with thirst. In español, we're going to use the verb tener, to have, to talk about thirst. So if you want to say I am thirsty, you have to say tengo sed. ¿Tienes sed? Número 4. Tengo miedo a. So we use this phrase to talk about fear. And when we want to say I am scared about something, we have to use this expression with the verbo tener en español. So we have to say tengo miedo a, and then you can use any nouns, any sustantivos, por ejemplo. Remember, you have to use the article before the nouns here. So we'll say tengo miedo a las arañas, tengo miedo a los tiburones, or you can say, you can use a verb if you are scared of an activity. For example, tengo miedo a bucear. Número 5, number 5. Tengo sueño. Tengo sueño. Tengo sueño means I am sleepy. Tengo sueño. I am sleepy. So again, we use this expression when, for example, you are in class and you are very sleepy, you probably didn't have a great night's sleep. So you can say and use this expression, tengo sueño. Now be careful, some of my students use it in the plural form, tengo sueños, and in that case, sueños would mean dream. So I have dreams, right? So in this case, it is a possession. We're talking about the dreams that you have, kind of like goals, but if you want to say that you're sleepy, then use it in the singular form, tengo sueño. Número 6, number 6, tengo prisa. Tengo prisa. Tener prisa significa to be in a hurry. So I am in a hurry would be tengo prisa. I am in a hurry. So we use this expression, for example, when you're going to work and you're running a little bit late, or when you're going to the airport to catch a plane, if you're going to a meeting or to the gym, anything that implies a schedule and you're running a little bit late, you can use this expression, tengo prisa. Yeah, so for example, if you're running to someone in the middle of the street as you are going or getting late to a different location, you can say, lo siento, tengo prisa. I'm sorry, I'm in a hurry. I have to go. Número 7, number 7. Tener calor. To be hot. Tener calor significa to be hot, but not as I am like, ooh, I'm good looking. Oh yeah, no. Tener calor significa in terms of the weather and the temperature when it's hot. I think we in English you say, oh, I'm hot. Sometimes I think we say more like it's hot as to talk about the weather and not yourself, right? So tengo calor significa it's hot, I am actually hot, it's really hot. Número 8, number 8. Tener frío. Tener frío significa to be cold, which is the opposite of the previous one that we said before. We talked about tener calor. Tener frío es lo opuesto. So tener frío is the opposite of tener calor. So tener frío is the same. We use it to talk about the weather and how it makes you feel this temperature, and we say tengo frío, I am cold. Número 9, number 9. Tener ganas de. Tener ganas de is an expression that we use in Spanish, and it means to feel like doing something. We don't even use the verb to be for this one, it's to feel like doing something. Por ejemplo, and remember, because we have a preposition here in Spanish, ganas de, we are going to use a verb in the infinitive form after that preposition. So we can say, for example, tengo ganas de ir al cine. I feel like going to the movies. Tengo ganas de bailar salsa. I feel like dancing salsa. Tengo ganas de hablar y estudiar español. I feel like talking and studying Spanish. etc. You can just pretty much use any verb in the infinitive form to talk about what you feel like with the verb tener in Spanish. Tener ganas de. Tengo ganas de. Número 10. Number 10. Finally, the last expression with the verb tener en español that I'm going to teach you today is tener dolor de. Tener dolor de. So this expression means to be sore or to hurt in some part of your body. Tener dolor de. So, por ejemplo, vamos a ver unos ejemplos. Let's have a look at some examples. Tener dolor de cabeza. To have a headache. Tener dolor de estómago. To have a stomachache. Tener dolor de muelas. To have a toothache, etc. Muy bien, esas son 10 expresiones con el verbo tener en español. Those are the 10 phrases with the verb tener that I want to share with you today. Muchas gracias por ver esta lección y nos vemos en la próxima clase. Thank you so much for watching this lesson and I will see you next class. Adiós.
Hola, hola, soy Romina Romagnolo. Mucho gusto. Soy tu profesora de español. Hi guys, my name is Romina Romagnolo. I'm your Spanish teacher. Hoy tengo 6 expresiones con el verbo gustar o relacionadas al verbo gustar para ti. Today I have 6 expressions with the verb gustar, which means to like, or related to this verb in Spanish. Número 1. Mucho gusto. Repite, por favor. Mucho gusto. You probably know this one already, no? Mucho gusto is probably one of the first sentences that you learn when you start learning Spanish, ¿no? ¿Qué significa? What does it mean? ¿Qué significa mucho gusto? Vamos, tell me. Pleased to meet you, okay? Nice to meet you. That's what mucho gusto significa, okay? So the literal translation of mucho gusto is actually a lot of pleasure, a pleasure to meet you, to come to acquaintance with you. Sort of like, what a pleasure to meet you. Número 2. No me gusta nada. Repite, por favor. Please repeat. No me gusta nada. No me gusta nada. Probablemente has escuchado a muchos latinos o españoles decir esta frase. You probably heard a lot of Latinos and Spaniards saying this phrase. It's a little bit dramatic, just like we are. And basically we're saying like we don't like something at all. Para nada. It's very, very emphatic, okay? Para nada. The literal translation is I don't like it at all. I don't like it for nothing. Like I don't like nothing of it. Okay, it's very dramatic. Okay, so if you find yourself in a formal setting with people that you don't know very well, it's very important for you not to actually say this phrase because it can be a little bit harsh. Okay, it's not offensive or it's not a bad word or anything like that, but just be mindful that it's just a little bit dramatic, a little bit too emphatic, no? So please just use it when you're surrounded by people that you feel very comfortable with. Número 3. Yo gusto de salir a cenar. Repite, por favor. Yo gusto de salir a cenar. Muy bien. So the phrase that I'm focusing in here is actually yo gusto de, and then an activity, right? You can say, like in this example, to go out to have dinner, or pretty much anything else you like, ¿no? ¿Qué te gusta hacer? What is it that you like to do? Yo gusto de mirar películas. I enjoy watching movies. I like to watch movies. So basically what you're saying is that these are the activities that you're fond of, okay? It's sort of like saying, I enjoy doing these things. I enjoy going to the movies with my friends. Yo gusto de ir al cine con mis amigos. I enjoy having drinks with my mom. Thanks, Mom. Yo gusto de beber con mi mamá. Número 4. María gusta de Carlos. Repite, por favor. Please repeat. María gusta de Carlos. María gusta de Carlos. So here we're being a little bit gossip, and we are telling people that Maria likes Charles. Yes, we usually teach our students that gustar is a verb that we use to talk about food, no? Like I like burgers, me gustan las hamburguesas, I like fruits, me gustan las frutas, I like fish, me gusta el pescado, pero también es perfectamente posible utilizar gustar para hablar de personas y de sentimientos. So it's perfectly possible to use the verb gustar to talk about people that we like, romantically speaking, that we feel attracted to, that we are talking about our feelings, no? To talk about people and feelings, it's perfectly possible to use el verbo gustar. So in this case, we were just saying, María likes Charles. Número 5. Me gustan algunas canciones de Shakira. Repite, por favor. Me gustan algunas canciones de Shakira. Es una mentira. Me gustan todas las canciones de Shakira. A mí me gusta muchísimo Shakira. So the thing that we're saying here is I like some of Shakira's songs. Me gustan algunas canciones. So when people ask you, hey, do you like this? ¿Te gusta Shakira? ¿O te gusta Colombia? ¿O te gusta Argentina? ¿Te gusta viajar? Lo que sea. When people are asking you, do you like doing this? Do you like doing that? In that case, let's imagine that you do like these things, but you don't want to make it sound that you're massive big fan of something. It's actually a phrase that we use quite a lot in Latin America because we don't want to be disrespectful, for example, when we don't like an artist. And we would still like to say like, yeah, I like Shakira, I like some of her songs, right? It doesn't mean that you bought every single disc of Shakira or that you have a Shakira t-shirt in your house and your whole house is decorated with her photos. But you are aware of her, you like some of her songs, and yes, you like her, so you can say just that. Me gustan algunas canciones de Shakira. Y finalmente, número 6. Yay. ¿Puede gustar o no gustar? Repite, por favor. ¿Puede gustar o no gustar? So this phrase is translated into English as whether we like it or not. Of course, it depends on the context, no? If you're going to be translating this whether we like it or not, if you're talking about yourself including a group of people, we, right? Whether we like it or not, we have to do this. Puede gustar o no gustar, pero tenemos que hacer esto. So we like it, whether we like it or not, we have to do this. But in other contexts, for example, where you're referring to other people, right? Then of course the translation is going to change a little bit, no? Let's say, for example, puede gustar o no gustar, pero la gente necesita pagar sus impuestos. Whether people like it or not, they will have to pay taxes. They have to pay their taxes. People need to pay their taxes. Muy bien, es el final del video. Muchísimas gracias por ver esta clase. It's the end of our video. Thank you so much for watching this lesson. I want to hear from you if you have any questions. Let me know down below, okay? In the comments down below. Si tienes preguntas, por favor, me dejas un mensaje en los comentarios. Y también yo quiero saber de ti. I want to know from you. ¿Ya conocías estas frases? Did you know these phrases already? Which ones did you know? Okay, let me know in the comments. And if you know any other phrases that you heard in Spanish related to the verb gustar, I will also love to hear that from you. Muchísimas gracias y nos vemos. Adiós. Hola, mi nombre es Romina. Mucho gusto. Hello, my name is Romina. Nice to meet you. Today I have a very good topic for you. Today we're going to talk about contracciones en español. Today we're going to talk about contractions in Spanish, Spanish contractions, okay? Which sounds painful, like giving birth, but it's not. And although contracciones sounds really difficult to pronounce in Spanish, if you practice a few times, it's not so hard. Repite. Contracciones, contracciones, contracciones. There you go. You are going to be extremely happy to learn contractions in Spanish. And let me tell you why. First, if your mother language is English, you have so many contractions in English, okay? Instead of saying I do not, you say I don't. That's a contraction. Instead of saying the whole two words, you fuse these two into one. You just say I don't. You are saving time and you're saving energy, okay? It's all about the economy of the language. That's why contractions occur. And because English is such a practical language, you have heaps of contractions to be learned, right? Same thing if your first language is Italian, or maybe you are also learning Italian alongside with Spanish. I'm not sure, I haven't learned Italian myself, but I heard that they have about like 12 or 16 contractions, okay? But in Spanish, good news, amigos, muy buenas noticias. We only have 2. Yes, only 2. Okay. So, these 2 contractions are only happening with 2 prepositions, dos preposiciones en español. La primera preposición, the first preposition that's going to have this contraction is la preposición a. It's with the preposition a, okay? This preposition will have different translations depending on the context, of course, but usually it's translated as direction to, for, it really has many translations. There are other videos where we explain the different meanings of the preposition. Definitely go back to those. Today I'm just focusing in the contractions and not quite on the meaning of each of these prepositions, okay? Just briefly, I want you to remember that usually is translated as to, okay? La otra preposición que tiene una contracción en español es la preposición de. Another preposition that has a contraction in Spanish is the preposition de, which usually means, depending on the context, of like the preposition of, the preposition of. And of course, many other meanings. Definitely go back to other videos where we explain this as well. Okay, so how this contraction works in Spanish. Basically, when either of these 2 prepositions meets with the article, the male or masculine singular article, el, which in English is going to be translated as the, when you have the preposition a plus el, okay, I have a little chart for you here. I hope you can see this clearly. So basically what's going to happen is that if you have the preposition a plus el, it becomes al, okay? Please repeat. Al, al, al. Very good. But if you have the preposition de followed by el, so in Spanish it sounds a little bit weird if you say de él, okay? Even now that I'm saying it, I feel that I'm sounding retarded. So what we do is we contract these two. The el becomes del, del, del. So that's it. Those are the only two contractions we have in Spanish. Let's practice, okay? Because if we don't practice, we forget what we just learned.
Please complete the following phrases with the Spanish contractions. Bolivia y Paraguay están al norte de Argentina. El agua del mar es salada. ¿Vamos al cine? Vengo del doctor.
Okay, so the contractions that we just learned are the official contractions of Spanish. What I'm trying to say is that they're widely spread in our language, okay? People say those contractions and they're grammatically correct in Spain, in Mexico, in Colombia, in Paraguay, in any country where we speak Spanish, okay? We are going to be using these contractions, okay? They are formal. They are formally accepted in our language. But we have more contractions that are not widely spread, meaning that some regions will be using these contractions and they're quite known by other people, but it doesn't mean that we all use it, and they're not accepted as such. In informal situations, for example, you wouldn't use these contractions, okay? So the first one I want to show you is the contraction of another preposition, which is the preposition para. Okay, so instead of saying the whole word, instead of saying para, we get rid of the ra, okay? Instead of saying para arriba, we say para arriba. Instead of saying para qué, we are gonna say pa qué. Repite, por favor. Pa arriba. Pa qué. Pa arriba. ¿Pa qué? They're really informal, okay? So do not use these ones if you're talking to an elderly person, if you're talking to, I don't know, someone that it's in a hierarchy higher than yourself, okay? Please don't use these ones. Another one that I found adorable in Spanish, I absolutely love it. I don't use it myself, but when I hear other people using this one in Spanish, I just love it. And it's when they drop the D between vowels, okay? For example, some dialects of Cuba, instead of saying pescado, which means fish, right? They will say pescado. Repite, pescado. Pescado. Another one is that when they're using the participle, they will drop the D as well. I've heard this quite a lot in Spain, for example, in Barcelona, I think. And this is, for example, instead of saying has comprado, have you bought the car? Has comprado el auto? They will say has comprado el auto, which is very cute. Please repeat. Has comprado. Has comprado. And another one that we use quite a lot is with the verb estar. okay? So instead of saying está, the whole thing, we just say ta. Again, this is very informal, so please make sure you only use it in very informal situations with people that you feel very comfortable with. So, for example, instead of saying está bien or está mal, you're going to say está bien, está mal, está mal. Okay, amigos, muchas gracias por ver este video. Today I had a lot of fun making this video. I hope that you enjoy it yourself as well. Again, muchísimas gracias for watching, and I will see you next time. Nos vemos. Adiós.
Want to speed up your language learning? Take your very first lesson with us. You'll start speaking in minutes and master real conversations. Sign up for your free lifetime account. Just click the link in the description.